Hello, everybody. So, Tuesday, I talked about the study of music that was mathematical and kind of disconnected from actual music making. So, to make this distinct from practical music making, we're going to give this kind of abstract, mathematical, philosophical approach to music a name. We're going to call it MUSICA, M-U-S-I-C-A, and I usually write it all caps. It's like the Platonic form of music. Also on Tuesday, I talked about that kind of crazy game of telephone and the way that Greek thought was transmitted into the medieval era in various garbled ways. And one of the most important links in the chain or along this game of telephone was a book called The Fundamentals of Music by a scholar named Boethius, which is Boethius. He's also in the textbook. And an important part of that book, The Fundamentals of Music by Boethius, was how Boethius dealt with MUSICA. He split the study of music into three areas, and for Boethius, the most important kind of musica was called musica mundana, M-U-N-D-A-N-A, also called musica universalis, like universe with alis, A-L-I-S at the end. And this meant the music of the cosmos. And there's a phrase that you may have run into in literature or wherever, the music of the spheres. And this actually refers to an ancient text. So there was a first century philosopher named Cicero, C-I-C-E-R-O. And in one of his philosophical treatises, he ended it with a little story, a little narrative called The Dream of Scipio, S-C-I-P-I-O. And in that little story, a soul is ascending from earth to the divine. And as the soul floats up and experiences the wonders of the cosmos, it asks about this magical sound that it's hearing. And it's told that the sound that they're hearing is the harmony that results from the motion of celestial bodies that move according to musical ratios, the ones that I talked about on Tuesday. And that only seekers of truth and musicians who could imitate the celestial order in their music could experience these sounds. So for medieval scholars who took these ancient writings as kind of fundamental truths, there was a connection between the immortality of the soul, ultimate truth-seeking, the order of the universe, and music. And this is why this kind of music, musica mundana, was the most important. Second most important was musica humana, H-U-M-A-N-A. And this wasn't music made by humans. This was music of humanity, sort of the music of our Constitution as represented by the four humors. The four humors is a kind of ancient medical theory, right? That every person has four fluids in them, blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. And each of those fluids is responsible for, parts of our personality. And if you have more or less of one of those fluids, you're going to exhibit certain character traits. So if you had a lot of blood, it meant you were happy and optimistic, right? If you know the word sanguine, I'm sanguine about my chances. That actually refers to the old four humors thing, because sanguine is blood. So yeah, this is the second kind of music, the coordination of those humors inside the body. And then the third kind of music that Boethius talks about, and the furthest one from Plato's ideal, was musica instrumentalis. Think of the word instrumental with an is at the end, instrumentalis. And this, musica instrumentalis, was music made by vocalists and instrumentalists. And one way you can see what medieval thinkers thought of these three different kinds of music, like how they valued them or prioritized them, is in an image that I'm going to do right now. So you can see this, it's called MUSICA, and that figure, that woman sitting on a throne on the left is MUSICA, the spirit of music, and then on the right are images of the different kinds of music in descending order from how we talked about them. So the first one is the music of the cosmos, musica mundana or musica universalis, and you can kind of see like the earth sort of at the bottom, and then something that looks like clouds in the middle, and then stars and the moon and the sun at the top. And then if you go down to the second pair, there's music on the left, and on the right are four people that look slightly different, and those represent the four humors. And then down at the bottom, you can see MUSICA again, and on the right, someone with playing a fiddle and all the different instruments around. And if you look at MUSICA carefully, it's funny because she's waving her finger like, like disapprovingly at that particular part. So, you can see that the MUSICA instrumentalis was the least valued. So this philosophical approach to music and an emphasis on aspects of music that aren't audible, this kind of thinking never really disappeared, right? We're going to see more examples of it throughout this semester. And for those of you who've been in the sequence the whole time, we've actually already seen examples of it in previous semester. And what I'm talking about is things that you can find in the score, but that you can't really hear in the music. So, one of the musicians we talked about in Music History 1, J.S. Bach, had a thing with numerology, right? If you add up the letters of his name, like B is 2, A is 1, C is 3, H is 8, you get the number 14. And you find that number a lot more than you think you would in his music. Fugue subjects with 14 notes, phrases that are 14 measures long, whatever. He had all sorts of different ways of getting the number 14 in there. And for Bach, this connected his music to those eternal truths that are expressed through mathematics. And then, from music history 2, the biggest one is probably Milton Babbitt, whose music was entirely sort of mathematical. It was all based on various mathematical equations and the way things worked. And he same thing with Ioannis Xenakis, by the way. Both of these composers weren't actually terribly interested in how the music sounded. They were interested in the connections between music and numbers. Now, all of this thinking is actually kind of neat and interesting, but none of it helped the monks who had to deal with all sorts of new chants and reorganizations of traditional chants. So in the next video, we're going to get into practical theory.